I'm here with mixed media artist Jane Dunnewold, and I am unbelievably excited about the technique that she has brought to share today. So I believe the technique is called expanded square.
It is.
And so will you tell us a little bit about what that is and how we do it?
Sure. The expanded square is a great exercise for studying design, but it creates patterns. We've got all kinds of stuff going on here. There are just a few basic rules. Okay, first of all, it would be a good idea to start with decent paper. Okay. Decent paper can be anything. I do black and white to get started. That's what I usually suggest. This is a cardstock block. The main thing is no construction paper.
Because
it shreds when you're trying to cut the teeny little bits and you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Okay.
So start with nice paper. Then start with a large enough square. I don't know about you, I am all thumbs. I'm pretty good at what I do, but it's not always so easy to manage the teeny little bits. So I start with a square that's 4 to 5 inches, and then that does it for me. And then you want a sharp knife. Okay? So when I'm cutting, I drew this so I could follow the lines because I was afraid I'd be nervous on TV and I've got a knife in my hands.
And of course, you're cutting on top of a self-healing mat,
yes,
and
exactly.
You're being careful about what you're doing,
exactly.
And all those other important things.
Right. And I could just freeform cut if I wanted to. So you can draw or not, that's up to you. This is eventually what I'm going to end up with if I continue on that track I was on.
I see. So you've cut out those squares from each side.
Right.
And now you have a white piece of cardstock, which you're just going to use a glue stick to adhere down.
Right. So I'm just going to put the glue on the back here, turn it over. Not a bad idea to have a little washcloth handy. I didn't bring that today, but it keeps your fingers from getting sticky.
And I was going to say, now, of course, I see the square, but now I want to know about the expanded.
Right. So these parts that I cut out, for example, here's the part I cut out from right there.
Okay.
The rules of the game are you flip the piece out and you glue it down to create a mirror image.
Okay, I can do that.
In the beginning, you can't cut off the corners if you're playing by the rules, and you can't go through the center, and you want to keep these 4 sides sort of to themselves as you're building the design, or you get into some weird stuff that you can figure out later, but not right now. Now, in order to make it more interesting, I took this shape and I cut out, same shape here, I cut out a little block.
So basically what you did is you took this little shape that you cut out, you cut a notch out of it so that instead of flipping this piece out, now when you flip this piece out, there's a notch taken out of it.
Right.
Am I correct?
You're right. And any notch or any shape I cut out, when I've cut it out, then I flip it back the other way and glue it down.
Okay.
So now
that's how you're starting to fancify it and make it really just complicated and visually interesting and have people ask that question, how did she do that?
Right. So this would eventually look like this.
Cool.
And this is fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but you've got in your hands right there some examples that are much more interesting, I think.
So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing?
Okay. So right here we've got basically a similar version to what I just cut in black and white, but I use this beautiful batik paper instead.
Cool. So that's that one. And then I know this reminded me of the famous painter Matisse.
So you can cut any shape you can think of. You're not relegated to triangles or squares or geometric shapes. You can do florals. You can do, just like you said, Matisse here. What else have we got?
And now we've got one that's even more complicated.
So this was cut double, and then you can just bump it apart a little bit so you get that beautiful high contrast blue and orange complementary thing happening.
I was going to say it's almost like a shadow. And this is another one. This is actually 3 colors.
It is, because my paper wasn't large enough, I'll tell you the truth.
But I love
I had to wing it.
That's a creative opportunity.
Yeah,
no such things as mistakes, just creative opportunities.
Right. So they can be as simple as a square like this where you begin to actually kind of lose the square, or it can be one like this where I've got these circles.
And I love that sometimes it's symmetrical, and yet here we come to this one, which is not quite symmetrical.
That's my ode to Habitat for Humanity and the house shapes.
I love that. And you know, I think this one is just so striking with that one dangle of a leaf.
So, and the original point of the exercise was to help people, artists, budding artists, understand balance. And so this, in a way, it kind of throws off the balance of the square, but on the other hand, it makes it more interesting when that's true.
Well,
Asymmetry is good.
It's also a great technique for helping you figure out what kind of design you like, what's pleasing to you.
Exactly. You know, one of the best exercises, do one every day for 30 days.
Oh my gosh.
I know you do that with the
I
eraser.
know, and
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah, it's good.
So I see you have nature, you have abstract.
And there, now that one, we've almost blown away the square completely.
I can see that. It's completely disappeared. And I love this spider one. It's perfect for, it could be nature, it could be Halloween. The web is amazing. And you know, for someone who says they don't like little pieces,
Yeah.
OMG, that is the tiniest piece ever.
Yeah, I'm getting creeps looking at it. But this cool thing can turn into this.
Ooh, so now I think I see what you've done, but tell us.
So I took a photo, I made a photocopy of this and I reduced it down. This was long ago enough that I didn't have computer skills. This would be easy to do in a computer program. And I put two together. Once I put those two together, then I could turn it into this repeating pattern, which I really love.
Wow. And then of course with that repeating pattern, you could do all sorts of things.
Right,
like...
right. So this isn't that pattern, but here's an example of some stencils made by Carol Wiebe.
Cool.
That riff on the same expanded square idea, and I just think those are a knockout.
That's a really cool idea, and I can see here that you have expanded square in your screen that you've put on here, obviously. You have expanded square in this fabric, which is printed.
So you would load these to a program that prints on demand fabric, and you can do the black and white version, because then I could take that back to the studio and dye it. Would you like to come over?
Yeah, I would like to come over.
Or I can change the colors and put it in print.
And of course you have some quilt squares. We have some more prints up in the book that you can see there. And I just think that there are so many ideas, so many ways that this can help teach you about design or be art for its own sake.
It could be. It can riff in so many different directions. It's one of the reasons I'm still doing it 15 years later.
Thank you, Jane. This has been really exciting.